Hey everybody, it's Matt, and welcome back to another episode of the Conservative America Sports Show. Today we're going to be doing bracketology, and with Selection Sunday yesterday, it means it's that time of year again, the time of year where a few weeks from, or by this Thursday, you'll either be cheering your team on as they beat their first round opponent, or ripping up your bracket as Cinderella upset your big team in the Final Four. And in just 20 short days, some team will be cutting down the nets in Atlanta while one shiny moment plays in the background and everybody celebrates. It's a great experience. This tournament is probably the greatest event in all of sports, maybe besides the Super Bowl. This only beating out the Super Bowl just because it's just such a long event and it's just so much fun to check back on and see how you're doing with the brackets. And I mean, the brackets make it what it is. Let's not kid ourselves. So I'm going to do a little show today where I talk about my picks for the tournament and who I think some sleeper teams are, who I think some really good players are on those teams, who I think some overrated teams might be, and hopefully I can give you guys some advice to help you maybe win your bracket pool at work or and such. So, but I mean, we all know that the bracket pool usually is won by the secretary that picks the teams based on the mascot. I mean, let's not kid ourselves here. The people that overthink it tend to not do very well, but having a little bit of advice can usually help you, and knowing quite a bit about some of the teams is definitely helpful. So let's get started. We're going to start with the Midwest region, and we're just going to do the whole region until the Final Four, and then move on to the next one. Uh, Obviously, I have Louisville over whoever wins the play-in game, which will probably be North Carolina A&T over Liberty. Um, no number one seed has ever lost, and I don't see Louisville, who's on a hot streak right now, being the first one to ever lose. It doesn't add up. It doesn't seem like they'll be the team to do it, and they're clearly going to go on. The next game is Colorado State over Missouri. I like Colorado State in that game. One of the things that I've always said about picking these teams is the teams that turn the ball over a lot and the teams that don't make the three very well are teams that don't usually are teams that don't do well in this tournament. Now Missouri makes the three at a reasonable rate, but they turn the ball over a ton, and that's something Colorado State doesn't do. They're one of the better ball handling teams in the country, and I think they're going to win. And usually I like picking the smaller school in these 8-9 matchups because Missouri struggled in a bad SEC conference, so I don't see them getting past the first round in this one. Next game we have Oklahoma State and Oregon. A lot of people like Oregon in this game. I'm not one of them. I think Oklahoma State should be able to beat them just on the merits of Smart, their guard. I think LeBron Nash is also very good. They're just got teams with legit NBA players generally do better because I mean they have those really talented guys that can just take over the tournament. I mean you saw what Steph Curry did with Davidson a couple years ago. He just put his team on his back and took him to the championship. So I think Oklahoma State should be able to pull that one off. I don't know about winning in the next round, but we'll see. St. Louis over New Mexico State. St. Louis is a pretty cool story. I mean, their coach passed away this offseason, and they just brought in a new coach, and they're really playing their hearts out to win this thing, and I don't see them losing to New Mexico State. Memphis over either Middle Tennessee or St. Mary's. I don't care who gets in this game. I'm pretty sure Memphis is going to win it. If you ever watched a Memphis basketball game, they are an incredibly athletic team. They're lanky, they're long, they're fast, they can jump, they can defend, they can score. They're a very fast-paced team. I don't know how well they'll do later in the tournament and when they have to play a bunch of games in a short period of time, but I'd like to see them do well because I mean they have to play somebody in the next round, probably Michigan State. Uh, I don't know how they'll do based on the fact that they'll have had to play 2 games in 3 days, which shouldn't be too easy for them considering how athletic and how they like to run the floor. But we'll see. Michigan State over Valparaiso, that's a no-brainer. Michigan State plays in the toughest conference in the country and did pretty well in there. I mean, their losses in the conference were to the bigger teams. I like their team with Payne and Nix and Appling. They got some talented guys, and they should have no problem beating Valparaiso. Creighton and Cincinnati. Here is my sleeper team for the tournament. I like Creighton. Doug McDermott is an absolute stud. Creighton is leading the country in field goal percentage, making almost 51% of their shots, and leading the country in three-point field goal percentage, making a little over 42% of their shots. So I mean, with those two things added together, plus they're an older team, they don't turn the ball over. They play they play below average defense, but they should at least beat Cincinnati. Cincinnati plays in the Big East, and they didn't do very well. They really haven't had any moments this year that made me think, wow, this Cincinnati team can really make a run in the tournament. But we'll see. I really like Creighton in this game, and I think I would recommend picking them. Duke and Albany, I got Duke, no brainer. Louisville and Colorado State, I got Louisville there again. I just don't think Colorado State has the firepower to hang with Louisville in this game. Oklahoma State and St. Louis, I really like St. Louis in this game. I know I've kind of picked all chalk so far, but you'll see it gets a little interesting. I like St. Louis in the game. They're a pretty good team. I mean, they got a lot to play for, and it's those Cinderella stories that you hear about. They're a 5 seed, so they're not that much of a surprise team, but I mean, they got all that stuff to play for. It seems like it's too good to be true. It seems like it's almost scripted. Memphis, Michigan State. I almost picked Memphis in this game. I really like Michigan State. I really like Memphis. I think Memphis has a good possibility to upset them, so it's not a bad pick if you pick Memphis. But Michigan State, I like their experience. I like Tom Izzo's a hell of a coach. He's probably the best March coach in all of basketball. I don't think he's getting knocked out very early. Creighton and Duke, I have Creighton winning. I think Duke, if Ryan Kelly isn't scoring well, is not a very good team, and I think Creighton can hang with them with Doug McDermott scoring about as well as Ryan Kelly can, if not better. McDermott's leading the country in scoring. I think they should be able to hang with them and possibly beat them, and I think Duke's overrated this year. Next up is Louisville over St. Louis. Louisville's the number 1 overall seed. I really like them in this tournament. And then I have Michigan State over Creighton. And then in the Louisville-Michigan State game, I pick Michigan State. I like the Big Ten teams better this year. I think the Big Ten really is the best conference. Coach in the game. Should be an interesting matchup with 2 of the best postseason coaches in Rick Pitino and Tom Izzo. So I'm interested to see what happens. So my final 4 pick from the Midwest region is Michigan State. First round for the West region, I have Gonzaga winning the first one. I know Gonzaga is kind of a mid-major team. I mean, we'll see how they do. I don't think they'll go very far, but I like them to beat Southern. It's a pretty easy pick. It's one of the freebie picks that they give you, so you might as well take it. I like Pitt over Wichita State. I think I'm not a big fan of Wichita State. I don't know a whole lot about either team, but from what I saw, it seems like Wichita State 9 games are a coin flip. Either one of them can win it. So, but it could go up in the air. Either one is fine. Number 5, Wisconsin against 12, Ole Miss. I like Ole Miss in that game. Ole Miss has a very good scoring point guard. He can really give them fits. He's the closest thing to J.J. Redick or a Jimmer Fredette that's in this tournament. He'll shoot from anywhere, literally anywhere on the court if he has the slightest bit of space. And I really don't like Wisconsin's play style in the tournament. They swing the ball around the 3-point line and wait till the shot clock's about to run out and then throw up a 3. And I just don't think that's an effective way to win in the tournament. Plus, I can't stand Bo Ryan, and I'd really like to see him get sent home early. Kansas State and the winner of Boise State and LaSalle. I think Kansas State will win that one. Kansas State's not a top 12 team in the country for no reason. They're a very good team. Magruder's a good player. They should be able to get through that pretty easily. Belmont and Arizona. I have Belmont upsetting Arizona. I really like Belmont. I can't explain why. I get this gut feeling about them. They're a good team. In fact, in my opinion, they're the 3rd best team in that region behind Ohio State and New Mexico. So we'll see. I really like Belmont in that game. And then, like I just said, New Mexico is the other team, is the next game, which is they're playing Harvard. And I don't like Harvard this year. I don't think the Ivy League is a very strong league, and the fact that Harvard went 19-9 this season, and they really haven't played that much lately because of the conference tournament. I mean, they probably had a couple games, but I mean they only played 28 games this season. There's teams that have more wins than Harvard has total games played. So without the conference tournament and really seeing how hot they can be, I don't see them knocking off New Mexico in the first round. Iowa State and Notre Dame. I like Iowa State purely on the fact that I don't think Notre Dame's a very good basketball team. I saw what they did last year. They lost to Xavier in the first round in a similar 7 versus 10 game. I don't think they're a great team, and in the Big East it's tough to have a really good record, but anytime I've watched them, they just don't impress me. Iowa State has played some good teams pretty close, and I like them over Notre Dame. And then Ohio State, I can clearly see them beating Iona. Iona is a very good offensive team. However, I don't think they can hang with Ohio State and Aaron Kraft and Deshaun Thomas and all those guys. Next in that region, I have Gonzaga over Pittsburgh. Again, I think Pangos and that long-haired center whose name is escaping me are very good players. I think they should be able to handle Pittsburgh. I have Kansas State over Ole Miss. Kansas State, again, very good team. I have New Mexico over Belmont. New Mexico is one of the hottest teams in the country right now. If you look at a blind side-by-side season comparison with Kansas, you would actually probably think New Mexico was the better team. Um, Ohio State and Iowa State, I have Ohio State winning that one in a landslide. I think Ohio State's the best team in that region. They're on fire right now after winning the Big Ten tournament and knocking off Michigan State and Wisconsin. So I think it's pretty obvious that they're going to win that one. Um, then I have Ohio State beating Gonzaga. They're in the Final Four, I think. Or well, actually, next round I have Gonzaga beating Kansas State. Who Gonzaga is better than Kansas State significantly, I think. I mean, Kansas State's a good team and all. I know I said it earlier, but I just don't see them beating Gonzaga, who's very hot right now. Ohio State should be able to beat New Mexico pretty easily. New Mexico's a mid-major team. They just don't match up with Ohio State very well. Kraft can give any point guard in the country, I mean, a heart attack with the way he plays defense. And Deshaun Thomas can score from anywhere, and he'll shoot from anywhere. Don't think that because he's not open, he's not going to shoot. He'll shoot it. And then I have Ohio State beating Gonzaga to go to the Final Four, as I said earlier. Next region, I will do after this quick commercial break, so stay tuned. Um, with the South, I mean Kansas over Western Kentucky. I like UNC over Villanova. I think Villanova turns the ball over a ton. I think UNC is a little underrated at an 8 seed. They got a really good player in James Michael McAdoo. He's a very good scorer, rebounder. He can do most of the things they ask him to do. And Roy Williams is a hell of a coach, so I think they should be able to pull off that game pretty easily. VCU over Akron. I know Akron's hot right now, winning the MAC tournament, but I just don't see them beating VCU and Shaka Smart. We all know what Shaka Smart can do in the tournament, and VCU just forces turnovers left and right. They get out in transition, they score. They're one of the better teams in this tournament. Yeah, I think they should have no trouble beating Akron. Michigan and South Dakota State. I'm leaning towards South Dakota State on this one, but I have Michigan written down here. Nate Wolters is a hell of a player. He's one of the better scorers in the country. He can pass really well, and it's pretty much the Nate Wolters show over there at South Dakota State. I don't see them. I'd like them to beat Michigan. I think they can. It's kind of a risky pick because I wouldn't have them going past the round of 32. So if that's something you want to pick, go ahead. But I don't think the opportunity cost of picking them is that, I mean, you're only having them go one round farther, so why bother risking an upset? UCLA over Minnesota. I really like Shabazz Muhammad. I think he deserves to be the number one pick in the NBA draft. Hope he goes to my Cavaliers up in Cleveland. I'd like to see I'd like to see them win this one. Shabazz is the most talented player in the country. Um, However, he just his basketball IQ isn't quite there yet, and I know I get kind of with teams that I see a lot like Minnesota. I get a little bit cynical about them because I kind of faults are. With these other teams, it's kind of like the new toy. I just don't know what their shortcomings are. But I still like UCLA over Minnesota in this one. Florida and Northwestern State. I mean, you got to go with Florida in this one. Northwestern State. I mean, they score well, but I think Florida's probably the team to beat in this region. San Diego State University over Oklahoma. I didn't even know Oklahoma had a basketball team after Blake Griffin left, but apparently they do, and they're the 10 seed in this tournament. So, I mean, there's no reason to pick them over San Diego State. And even if Oklahoma were to beat San Diego State, there's no way they'd get through Georgetown, who I have in the next game. So I have San Diego State winning that one, and then Georgetown winning their first round game. Next round, I have Kansas beating UNC. I think UNC could have made a run in this tournament had they not been unlucky enough to get the 8 seed in the tournament. And I'm a big fan of Kansas. I just don't see where Kansas would lose to UNC. The next game is VCU and Michigan is what I have, or for some of you, VCU and San Diego State or South Dakota State. I like VCU in this game. It could be an interesting matchup if VCU plays Michigan and not South Dakota State, because Michigan's offense is based on not turning it over, and VCU's defense is based on forcing turnovers. So, I mean, we'll see whether the immovable object or the unstoppable force wins that one. So, the next game is UCLA and Florida, and I like Florida in that one. I think Shabazz is a good player, but I don't think they can stack up with Florida's defense. And Florida's one of the best. Florida is the best team in the SEC. I don't know. I think Florida wins that one pretty big. I have Georgetown over San Diego State. Otto Porter is the best player in the Big East, and no question about it. And I think he should be able to at least carry Georgetown to the Sweet 16 on his own. Then in the Sweet 16, I got Kansas over VCU. I mean, I like VCU. I think they're a very good team to root for in this tournament. I mean, everybody loves VCU. Everybody loves Shaka Smart. Everybody remembers what they did 2 years ago to make it to the Final Four as an 11 seed when everyone said they had no business being in the tournament. However, I don't think they can beat Kansas. Macklemore is a legitimate NBA top 5 pick. He'll be a star in the NBA from the get-go. But I mean, I just don't think VCU can hang with the firepower that Kansas has. And Jeff Withey is an absolute force in the middle. Florida over Georgetown. I think Otto Porter's a good player. I think he can carry Georgetown to the Sweet 16. I just don't think his supporting cast is good enough to get him past the unbelievable defense of Florida. And then I have Florida over Kansas in the Elite Eight to put Florida in the Final Four. I think Florida's defense should be able to negate the advantage that Kansas gets from having Ben McLemore and Jeff Withey, but it could go either way, but I really like Florida in that game. Next one is bottom right region or the East region. I have Indiana over whoever wins that play-in game, who I'm not even going to talk about because there's no chance they beat Indiana. I have NC State over Temple. NC State's got a player by the name of C.J. Leslie, who I really like. I think he's one of the best players in the country, and I think he's enough to take them through to the second round. Or I guess the third round or round of 32 ever since they got the 4 playing games. UNLV over California. Bennett is a stud for UNLV. There is no reason they should lose to California with him playing. The only reason I could see them losing if he goes down early or gets in serious foul trouble, which is possible. But I definitely like UNLV in that game. Syracuse and Montana. Montana's got very good guard play. However, I think Syracuse, with Michael Carter-Williams and all those guys, Brandon Trish, they should be able to get through Montana without any problems. And then I like I like Bucknell over Butler. I don't think Butler's that good this year. I think they're a tad overrated. We've seen what they can do in the past. Brad Stevens is a hell of a coach, but I'm not very high on Butler this year. I think Bucknell's a solid team, and I think they should be able to win that game. Those 6-11 games are usually pretty close to a toss-up. Now, here's probably the biggest upset I have in the tournament. I have Davidson over Marquette. I think Marquette has no business being a 3 seed. They're one of the I've watched them every time I've watched them. They're not impressive at all. Davidson is a phenomenal free throw shooting team, which sometimes can be the difference in this tournament. And Davidson plays a slow half court style, and they don't turn the ball over too much, and they should be able to upset Marquette as the 14 seed. Then I have Illinois over Colorado. I think Illinois with Brandon Paul. If Brandon Paul shows up, Illinois is going to win. It's simple as that. Then next to the Sweet 16, I have Indiana in the Sweet 16 over NC State. Indiana with Watford, Zeller, Oladipo. I mean, Oladipo should be able to shut down C.J. Leslie. Oladipo is one of the best on-ball defenders in the country, and Zeller's a legitimate top 5 NBA pick. I think they should be able to beat NC State without any trouble. UNLV over Syracuse. I think when it comes down to it, UNLV's top guy is better than Syracuse's top guy. I don't like Syracuse in these tournaments. They don't tend to do very well. I mean, last year's Elite Eight was one of the probably the farthest they've made it in the recent years, and they just always seem to go down early. Then I have Bucknell over Davidson. Although if it came down to Butler and Marquette, I would definitely pick Butler. But I have Bucknell over Davidson. I like Bucknell. I think if it came down to two of those sleeper teams, Bucknell is the team to pick. Then Illinois and Miami, Florida. I have Miami winning that one. I think with Shane Larkin, they should be able to negate Brandon Paul and move on to the next round. Indiana and UNLV, no question on my mind, Indiana. Indiana is the most balanced team. They're probably the safest pick in the tournament. Definitely a good team to pick. And then I have Miami over Bucknell. Bucknell at this point would have made a great run as the 11 seed, but I don't see them knocking off the 2 seed Miami. Even though I think Miami's a tad overrated, I just don't see it happening. All right, then I have Indiana advancing to the Final Four, beating Miami. As I said, Indiana's the safest pick in the tournament. They're probably the best team. I think it's a little ridiculous that Louisville got the number 1 seed when I think Indiana's the best team in the country. Then for the Final Four in Atlanta this year, on the Midwest and West side, we've got I have Michigan State and Ohio State, and I have Ohio State winning that one. Ohio State beat Michigan State in the Big Ten tournament pretty handily. They didn't really have a whole lot of problems doing it either. With Aaron Kraft and Deshaun Thomas on your team, and LaQuinton Ross playing the way he is with an NBA body and NBA athleticism, and Sam Thompson, their forwards, learned a bit of a jump shot too, so they should be able to move past Michigan State and advance to the championship game in Atlanta. And I like Indiana over Florida. I think Indiana's, like I said, the best team in this tournament. And then for the championship game, I have Indiana over Ohio State. Indiana's 1-1 against Ohio State this year, so it's a toss-up at this point. And it's kind of funny, Indiana beat Ohio State at the Schottenstein Center in Columbus, and then Ohio State beat Indiana in Indiana. So we'll see what happens, but I like Indiana in that game. I think Cody Zeller's just too good. And we'll see what happens, but as of right now, my national championship is Indiana 70-65. And with that, that's my bracket. Like I said, a couple sleeper teams to keep your eyes out for if you missed it. Creighton, I have in the Sweet 16. Look out for St. Louis to upset Louisville in the Sweet 16. Motivation stuff that they got going on. Look out for Ole Miss to possibly beat Kansas State in the second round. Kansas State's a good team, but I think Ole Miss, if their star player gets hot, they can beat just about anybody in the country. I think New Mexico is heavily overrated. I think they are the second best team in that region, but I think that region is also heavily overrated with Gonzaga and New Mexico. I think they're overseeded. What else? For sleeper teams, Davidson and Bucknell. I have Bucknell in my Sweet 16, and I have Davidson over Marquette. I don't really think Marquette's that good. I think they're one of the most overrated teams in the tournament, and Davidson should be able to knock them out with ease. Possible upset in the round of 32. I mean, I don't really know how big you'd consider a 6 over a 3 to be, but UCLA has a very good shot at beating Florida, who I have in my Final Four. UCLA with Shabazz Muhammad, if he gets hot, there's no telling how good they could be in this tournament. I got for you. Just keep your eyes out for the brackets or for the tournament to start. Make sure you get all your money into whoever's the director of your tournament pool. And with that, good luck, and hopefully we won't be tearing up our brackets too early. Thank you.